First, let us define quadratic equations. Quadratic equations are of this standard form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. But a should not be equal to 0. It means in a quadratic equation, there is a term with a variable raised to second power. Example, 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 equals 0. In here, our example is in standard form. All the terms are on the left side and it is equal to 0. Then we can collect the a, b, and c. Take note that the a is the coefficient of x squared. So a equals 2. The b is the coefficient of the x. So in here the b equals 9. And the c is the constant. So c is equal to negative 5. Do not forget the sign of the constant. Let us see now the quadratic formula. The solutions to a quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is not equal to 0, are given by the formula, and this is the quadratic formula. X equals, in the numerator, is negative b plus or minus the square root of the quantity b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Here are the steps on how to solve quadratic equation using quadratic formula. Step 1. Write the quadratic equation in standard form. Identify the a, b, and c values. Step 2. Write the quadratic formula. Then substitute the values of a, b, and c. Step 3. Simplify. Let us have some examples. This is example 1. Solve 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 equals 0 by quadratic formula. In solving, it means we want to get the values of the x. Step 1. Write the quadratic equation in standard form. The equation is already in standard form because all the terms are on the left and it is equal to 0. Identify now the a, b, and c values. So we will collect the a, that is the coefficient of x squared, it is 2. We collect now the b, the coefficient of x, and that is 9. And the c is the constant, negative 5. Step 2. Write the quadratic formula. Then substitute the values of a, b, and c. Here now is our quadratic formula. And then we substitute the values of a, b, and c. It is now the negative of b, and that is 9, plus or minus the square root of, this is now 9 squared, minus 4. The a is now changed into 2. The c is now negative 5 all over 2 times a, and the a is now changed into 2. And step 3, we will simplify and get the values for x. So the negative of the positive 9 is now negative 9, plus or minus 9 squared is 81, the product of negative 4, 2, and negative 5 is positive 40 all over 2 times 2 is 4. Then we simplify the radicand. The 81 plus 40 is 121. We just copy the negative 9, the plus or minus sign, and the denominator 4. On the next step, we need to simplify this square root of 121, and that is 11. Now at this point, we're going to split the plus and minus. There will be two values for the x. The x sub 1 is equal to, we will use first the plus sign. So negative 9 plus 11 all over 4. For the x sub 2, the negative sign will be used. So negative 9 minus 11 all over 4. Then let us simplify both. Negative 9 plus 11 equals positive 2 over 4. The negative 9 minus 11 equals negative 20 over 4. We can reduce to lowest term the 2 over 4. It is equal to 1/2. The negative 20 over 4 is equal to negative 5. So the two values of x are 1/2 and negative 5. Let's have example 2. Solve x squared minus 6x equals negative 5 by quadratic formula. Step 1. Let us write the equation in standard form. We can see here that the constant negative 5 is on the right. The standard form says the right side must be equal to 0. So we will transpose the negative 5 to the other side of the equation, and the sign must be changed. So the negative 5 becomes positive 5 on the left side, and it is equal now to 0. Then we will identify the a, b, and c. For our a, the coefficient of x squared is 1. The b, the coefficient of x is negative 6. And the c is the constant. Step 2, we go now to our quadratic formula. Then we will substitute the values of a, b, and c. So it's now negative of negative 6 plus or minus the square root of the square of negative 6 minus the constant 4 times a, which is now changed into 1, times c, which is now changed into 5, all over 2 times a, and a is 1. Step 3, let us simplify. The negative of negative 6 is positive 6, plus or minus the square root of the square of negative 6 is positive 36, minus the product of negative 4 times 1 times 5 is negative 20, all over 2. And then we will simplify the 36 minus 20. It is now 16. So our radical now is square root of 16. And then we can simplify the square root of 16 into 4. And from this point, we're going now to split the plus and minus sign to get the two values of x. X sub 1 equals 6 plus 4 all over 2, and x sub 2 equals 6 minus 4 all over 2. For the x sub 1, the 6 plus 4 is 10 over 2, which is equal to 5. For our x sub 2, the 6 minus 4 is 2 over 2, and that is equal to 1. And this is our final answer. Now let us consider example 3. Solve x squared equals 8x minus 16 by quadratic formula. Step 1. Let us write the quadratic equation in standard form. It means the 8x minus 16 we will transpose on the left side. If we do that, we should change the sign. Look at the 8x. It becomes negative 8x here, and the negative 16 on the right becomes positive 16, and it is now equal to 0. Then let us identify the a, b, and c values. A is the coefficient of x squared. It is equal to 1. B is the coefficient of x, and that is negative 8. And the c, the constant, positive 16. Then we will write the quadratic formula and substitute the values of a, b, and c. So this is now the negative of negative 8 plus or minus the big square root. The square of negative 8 is here, then minus 4 times a, which is now changed into 1, times c, which is now changed into 16, all over 2 times a, and is now changed into 1. Then step 3, we will simplify the formula. The negative of negative 8 is positive 8, plus or minus the square root of the square of negative 8 is positive 64. Then minus the product of 4 times 1 times 16 equals 64. All over the 2 times 1 is 2. You see here we have 64 minus 64, and that is equal to 0. So our radical now is square root of 0, and when we simplify the square root of 0, it's simply 0. At this point, we will now split our x into plus or minus. The x of 1 is 8 plus 0 all over 2. 8 plus 0 is 8 over 2 is equal to 4. X of 2 is the 8 minus 0 all over 2. Also it is 8 over 2, and that is equal to 4. You see here our values are the same. It's like the solution of the quadratic equation is simply a single number, and that is 4. This is our final answer. Take note, in a quadratic equation, since the highest power is 2, the number of possible solutions is at most 2. Example 4. Solve 2x squared plus 10x plus 11 equals 0 by quadratic formula. We have our formula in here. Now let us collect the values of a, b, and c. The a is the coefficient of x squared. So we write here a equals 2. The b is the coefficient of x, and this is positive 10. And the c is the constant 11. Then we substitute the values a, b, c in our equation. So we have x equals the negative of 10 plus or minus the big square root 10 squared minus 4ac, and that is 4 times 2 times 11 all over 2a, that is 2 times 2. We simplify further. This negative of 10 is simply negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 10 squared is 100 minus the product 4 times 2 times 11. That will be 88 all over 2 times 2 is 4. We simplify the values inside the radical symbol. 100 minus 88 is 12. Now we simplify the square root of 12. This is not a perfect square number, so we simply take the factors of 12, one of which must be a perfect square number. So we have the square root of 4 times 3. And we know the square root of 4 is 2. We can pull it out this radical sign. So we have now 2 square root of 3. In the numerator, there is a common factor, and that is 2. We can factor it out. So we have 2 times the quantity, negative 5, plus or minus the square root of 3, all over 4. We can cancel the 2 and the 4. So this 2 becomes 1, and this 4 becomes 2. We simplify further. X equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 3 all over 2. Now we're going to show the two values of x. The first value will use the positive. The second value will use the negative. So x sub 1 equals negative 5 plus square root of 3 all over 2. And x sub 2 equals negative 5 minus the square root of 3 all over 2. This is our answer. Example 5. Solve 3p square plus 2p plus 9 equals 0 by quadratic formula. Our quadratic formula is here. Now let us collect the values of a, b, and c. The a is the coefficient of p square, so we write a equals 3. b is the coefficient of this middle term, so this 2 is the value of b. And the c is the constant, so we write here c equals 9. We substitute the values a, b, c respectively in the equation. So we have x equals the negative of positive 2 plus or minus the big square root of 2 square minus 4ac. So we write here 4 times 3 times 9 all over 2a. So we have 2 times 3. We simplify further. This negative of 2, we simply write minus 2 or negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 square is 4 minus the product 4 times 3 times 9, and that will be 108 all over 2 times 3, that is 6. We simplify the values inside the radical sign. 4 minus 108, and that will be negative 104. When we simplify this square root, we say that we cannot take the square root of a negative number. So that means we will conclude that the given equation has no real solution. Example 6. Solve 3 over 4 y square plus 1/2 y equals 3 over 8 by quadratic formula. We can see here that our problem involves fraction. Let us first eliminate the fraction. Let us multiply this equation by the LCD. I hope you still remember how to get LCD. Consider the denominators 4, 2, and 8. In here, the LCD is 8. So, we multiply this equation by the LCD, which is 8. That means this 8 here comes to each of the terms of our equation. So we have 8 comes in the first term, 8 comes on the second term, and 8 comes on the constant 3 over 8. So it becomes like this. Then we multiply. Of course, we can see some terms that we can cancel. So we have this 8 cancel with the 4, 8 becomes 2, 4 becomes 1. This 8 cancels with 2, 8 becomes 4, 2 becomes 1. 8 cancels to 8, both equals to 1. Then we simplify further. 2 times 3, then multiplied by y squared. That will be 6y squared. This 4 times 1, then multiplied by y. So we have 4y equals 3 times 1 divided by 1 is 3. Now, let us transpose the constant 3 to the left side. From positive, it becomes negative. We have now a quadratic equation in standard form. Let us now use our quadratic formula to solve the values of y. Let us now collect the values of a, b, and c respectively. A is the coefficient of y squared, so we write here 6. B is the coefficient of y, so we write here 4. C is the constant, negative 3. We substitute these values in our formula. So we have y equals the negative of 4 plus or minus the big square root 4 squared minus 4 times 6 times negative 3 all over 2 times 6. We simplify further. So we have now negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared is 16, negative 4 times 6 times negative 3, now positive 72. All over 2 times 6 is 12. We simplify the radicand. 16 plus 72 is 88. Let us simplify this square root of 88. We see the factors of 88 as 4 by 22. And this 4 inside the radicand, we can put it out as a whole number. So it becomes 2 square root of 22. In the numerator, there is a common factor, which is 2. We can pull it out. So we have 2 times the quantity, negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 22 all over 12. We can cancel this 2 and 12. So this 12 becomes 6. So y equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 22 all over 6. Now let us show the values of y. One value is using the positive. So we have y sub 1 equals negative 2 plus the square root of 22 all over 6. The other one, y sub 2, using the negative. So negative 2 minus square root of 22 all over 6. These are the values of y. Example 7. Solve x times x minus 6 equals negative 10 by quadratic formula. First, let us simplify the left-hand side. This x multiplied to the binomial. So we have x squared minus 6x equals negative 10. Then we transpose the negative 10 to the left. So we have x squared minus 6x plus 10 equals 0. Let us solve now for x using our quadratic formula. This is our formula. Let us now collect the values of a, b, and c. A is the coefficient of x squared, so that is 1. B is the coefficient of x, we have negative 6. And c is the constant 10. We substitute these values, so we have x equals the negative of negative 6 plus or minus the square root of the square of negative 6 minus 4 times 1 times 10 all over 2 times 1. Negative and negative becomes positive 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 is positive 36. Then we multiply 4 times 1 times 10. So we have here minus 40 all over 2 times 1 is 2. When we simplify the radicand, 36 minus 40 gives us negative 4. We cannot simplify this square root because we say that we cannot take the square root of a negative number. So we stop in here. Thus, the given equation has no real solution. This is our answer.